So we're right on the eve of the Xbox showcase, and Game Pass is bringing more titles, and I gotta say they are looking good. I'm Sonny, your host, and we're gonna start this with Monster Train 2, a surprising day one Game Pass title launching today. It's essentially a card game with the story here is that the angels and demons have to work together to take out a new threat known as the Titans, who have taken control over heaven. So not a terribly unique premise, but the gameplay here is what really shines. You battle it out on these trains, and there's tons of strategy involved with the deck playing, where you defend across these 3 vertical levels, and you use different card types like equipment cards, room cards, and you fight back with your unit cards as well. Now, I never got to play the first game, but it was super well loved with close to 20,000 overwhelmingly positive user reviews. And I like games like this because they tend to be really great for Xbox cloud gaming action on your phone or on the go. This one is available, as I said, as a day one Game Pass game today. We also have this month more games joining Game Pass Standard. Creatures of Ava, the action adventure game where you tame creatures to help you save the planet from an infection. And then the big one here is Stalker 2. Both of these will be available with Standard on Xbox Series X and S on May 22nd. So we have an excellent title that released late last year coming to Game Pass in Tales of Kenzera, an action adventure Metroidvania published by EA. Here you play as a son trying to get back your father's spirit, but to do so you have to navigate these dangerous lands of Kenzera. Now the gameplay for this title looks absolutely stunning. It's 2D and it has plenty of platforming, but visuals I feel are colorful and gorgeous, and the combat looks fast and fluid. The game didn't see a ton of people play it last year, but nonetheless it has reviewed with nothing but positive user reviews, which doesn't surprise me. The game, at least on the surface here, looks really good. If you missed this title last year, well, you now have a shot at playing it on Game Pass when it lands on May 22nd across cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. So The Division 2 is coming to Game Pass, and it's even launching here soon. Year 7 Season 1 content. There's this huge DLC coming in, Battle for Brooklyn is what it's called, but I don't think that's going to be, sadly included with Game Pass. You're going to have to buy that separately. Nonetheless, the game itself, despite releasing back in 2019, is still an excellent title. It's actually was one of my favorite games years ago. It's essentially like an open world where you have all these different specializations you can choose from, and your objective really is to kind of just shoot down enemies. That's kind of the gameplay. You grab loot and you upgrade your character. Typically the loot is really fun and dynamic. Kind of reminds me of like action RPGs like Diablo, where you get this varied loot. You can also team up with other players online. There is PvP if you want to jump into that, but you can play this completely solo, which is what I typically do. Obviously this is coming to Game Pass because I think that DLC, they're kind of hoping that we all purchase it. But either way, if you want to play the base game, there's actually a lot of fun to still have there, and you're gonna have a blast. This one's coming to Game Pass on May 27th. So Game Pass gets yet another big title in metaphor, Refantazio. And side note, Game Pass now has some of the best turn-based titles with Expedition 33 and now this one. So big shout out to Xbox, but this one dropped late last year, so it's still a relatively new game published by Sega and developed by Atlas, and really developed by some of the best people behind the Persona series. And so this is a good one. So here you journey alongside a fairy companion to a place called Gallica, where you're trying to lift a curse from the kingdom's lost prince. You also realize you have these pretty incredible powers that have been dormant, and you'll take alongside a party as you go on this adventure, and there's a ton of stuff happening in this game. It's got an amazing, fun story to follow, a lot of quests, dungeon diving, and then there's things to maintain relationships with the people you come across, and a lot more. The game has received nearly perfect review scores across tons of publications. Actually, a ton of publications gave it perfect scores. Then it has a Metacritic score of 92, and it even won Game of the Year from IGN last year. So there's a lot happening with this game. This is a massive get for Game Pass, and I'm really happy to see it. You do have to love some kind of, some of that turn-based action combat. You have to kind of love all that, but it's got a great story and one you really want to follow. This one is coming on Game Pass on May 29th on cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. And yet another Metroidvania joining Game Pass, we have Crypt Custodian. This is kind of like a quirky story where you play as Pluto. This is a cat who died but has been sentenced to to the afterworld to be a janitor for the rest of eternity. Now you get to wander the land with your broom and solve puzzles, discover secrets, and face some I gotta say, some pretty cool looking boss battles. There's even some customization with your upgrades as you level. The game was nominated last year for a few indie awards, so it's been well loved for its uniqueness and fun looking gameplay. This one's coming to Game Pass on June 3rd. Now, speaking of unique games, we have the game Symphonia joining Game Pass. This is another indie platformer, but unlike the others, there's no combat here. It's pure platforming where you use your violin and bow as instruments to help you guide you through your journey. The game is clearly about its musical score and sound design mixed with what it's mostly a relaxing adventure where you just sit back and enjoy the sound. Symphonia is coming to Game Pass on June 3rd. So the month of May definitely seems packed with tons of simulation games, and we have one here in Firefighting Simulator: The Squad. This one throws you right into the heart of the intense action, and you have fire spreading rapidly around you as you try to save burning houses, factories, offices, and even people from these fires. Personally, this one seems like it can get a little bit repetitive after a while, but if you're really into realistic scenario-based sims, this is going to be a solid pick. And also, if you happen to have friends to play with, this one even gets a little bit, more interesting with 3 other players in co-op. Firefighting Simulator: The Squad is set to drop on Game Pass on May 20th. Now, our next one is really interesting in Police Simulator: Patrol Officers, and this one's for those who want to experience what it feels like to be a cop in America, and the game, I gotta say, looks really good, and it's got some really good player reviews, but the thing is that this game will really keep you hooked for hours with the hundreds of different scenarios that really test your policing skills. You will be dealing with things from traffic incidents to random DUIs, even running an entire prison. I really like the variety here, so if you're into something like this, you're going to want to check out Police Simulator: Patrol Officers. This one lands on Game Pass on May 20th. So we have a really quirky short adventure game that's called To a T. Here you play as a kid stuck in a permanent T pose, and it's made everything a lot more difficult. You'll meet weird characters, you'll explore a town, you'll try to perform the most routine tasks without messing up, which you're probably going to do a lot. Now, I don't know if this game's going to be like everyone's cup of tea, but I genuinely appreciate how unique it is. If you're into offbeat games that kind of make you, give you a smile, To a T is a good one to take a look at. This one drops on Game Pass on May 28th. In yet another simulator, we have Spray Paint Simulator for those who are really creative and you're looking for a relaxing yet rewarding gameplay experience. Exactly what this sounds like: a spray painting sim where you get to grab a can, pick a wall, and you just go wild with your artistic skills. It's also got a very chill vibe, plus you get to run your own little business, taking on tasks like painting houses, car jobs, renovating old buildings, and a lot more. There's a bunch of tools, colors, and spray machines to really mess around with as well, and you get more money the more you earn from all these jobs. So if you're looking for something to kick back, zone out for a while, something relaxed and fun, you're going to want to give this one a shot when it lands on Game Pass on May 29th. So we got some really cool news from Microsoft. They just announced that Game Pass Ultimate subscribers can now stream 12 more games through Xbox Cloud Gaming. They added the stream your own games feature some time ago. The library just keeps growing. The latest update includes awesome games like Cuphead, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Arma Reforger, and a lot more. You can check out that full list on the screen, but it's clear Xbox is going all in on making cloud gaming and more of your games in general just a lot more accessible, and I'm here for that. Now, The Alters is a game that I've been waiting for some time. This one has me really curious. It's a sci-fi survival game where you play as a guy stuck on a dangerous planet, and in order to survive, you have to create these alternate versions of yourself called alters. Now, each alter gets a different skill set and personality, which could help you stay alive by making them work together as some sort of like multiverse crew. I love the psychological angle here, and the story looks like it's gonna get really good. If you're into narrative-driven games with mind-bending mechanics, The Alters is one you don't want to miss. This one's coming to Game Pass here pretty soon on June 13th. We have Firebreak FBC, probably the wildest action shooter coming out this year. It takes you right back to the mysterious Bureau of Control, so do expect some mind-bending powers and creepy anomalies, of course. This one isn't holding back on that chaos though that we saw in Control. This time you are free to spray the whole building with insane weapons as you try to rid the Bureau of these really strange, deadly creatures. The gameplay looks super slick with awesome variety of weapons and abilities you'll be messing with, and honestly, I'm really hyped for this one. And if it looks like something you'd be interested in, I think you're going to keep an eye out for FBC Firebreak when it lands on Game Pass on June 17th. Now, the next game promises to make soccer a lot more more fun with exaggerated player versus player gameplay. And I'm talking about Rematch, a 5v5 arcade style on the sport which is faster, looser, and way more stylish than your usual FIFA or PES. It actually reminds me a little bit of like Shaolin Soccer, which makes sense since it's from the same devs of Sifu, and the gameplay looks snappy and fun with flashy moves and a focus on quick action-packed matches. If you're tired of the usual serious sports sims and you just want to have fun on the pitch, this one's definitely worth a shot on Game Pass as it lands as a day one title on June 19th. Okay, not sure if you guys heard about this, but Rainbow Six and Game Pass teamed up a few days ago. The latest update to the popular tactical shooter Siege X is dropping day one on Game Pass, and just to be clear, the game itself is already free to play, but there's a premium version loaded with extra content, and that's what Game Pass Ultimate members are getting access to. Siege X officially drops on Game Pass on June 10th, so if you're into tactical shooters, you're going to want to check this one out. Another game that's recently announced to join Game Pass this June is Lost in Random's next chapter, The Eternal Die. And for those who played the first game, they know how fun and intense this game can be, and it was actually featured on multiple of my best and hidden Game Pass games for many years. This new chapter though, however, raises the stakes higher with a much brutal roguelike gameplay. You are in for a deeper run against more dangerous enemies and challenging puzzles, but the game world also rewards you with more powerful relics and abilities that help you escape this nightmarish land. I really love the first game, and compared to that, this one looks like a more fast-paced and intense, situation. I'm excited for it. I will be checking this one out when it arrives on Game Pass on June 17th. Now, if you guys are into strategy games, you're gonna have to check out Against the Storm. This one's a massive addition for Xbox gamers since this game's been ruling the genre on PC Game Pass when it came out in 2023. Now it's finally come into our Xbox consoles. It's a brilliant mix of dark fantasy city builder with a post-apocalyptic touch to it, where you're trying to survive in a world that's constantly hit with deadly weather and insane creatures. And with its brilliant roguelike elements, this one always has you adapting and experimenting and making those really tough choices. Against the Storm is set to join Game Pass on June 26. And maybe the most exciting news right now has to be that Doom the Dark Ages is out. It's on Game Pass from day one. If you've been waiting to rip and tear through demons with medieval style weapons and that classic Doom intensity, you can do it now. This time though, the game's more brutal, it's more gritty, and it's set in a dark fantasy world that somehow still feels perfectly Doom. Players and critics have been loving it, and honestly, there's a ton to dive into. If you got a Game Pass subscription, there's no time better now than to jump in there and get in there and slay some demons. This is a good one, and like I said, it's out now for Game Pass. With that, we do have some games coming to Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta on May 23rd. I'll leave that big list of those games up on the screen, including my personal favorite franchise, State of Decay. This one comes with State of Decay Year 1. And guys, I gotta say, we also have some games leaving Game Pass, a big bummer. I'm gonna leave those up on the screen, and these games will be leaving on May 31st. So it looks like starting today, Game Pass members like myself will get to enjoy 50 retro games that are included with our membership. This looks like it's from Activision Blizzard, so these are some really awesome things. I don't think there's any sort of trailer, but I wanted to showcase some of these games. This looks pretty awesome, and glad to see it that we're getting this for Game Pass users.